evening, everybody. Today I am going to bring to you my summary of learning, and I'm going to be making you a taco. Yep, I'm making you a social justice taco to talk about what I learned in ECS 110. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the basis of our taco, and it's our tortilla. Our tortilla represents white privilege, and I'm going to talk about my white privilege specifically. So what is white privilege? Well, privilege is an outcome of advantages some have and others do not. For those of you wondering, page 81 of our textbook. And we read a couple of articles, one that talked about the invisible knapsack of privilege. And the definition by that author, who was McIntosh, is that it's an invisible knapsack full of special tools and assets. So basically what I'm going to talk about in my own narrative is that I need to acknowledge my white privilege, or just my privilege in general, before I teach my students. I might have students who do not have the same privilege as I do, and I need to acknowledge that difference in my classroom. And the other reason why it represents white privilege is, well, its color. It also wraps me up and insulates me from the other isms that I will discuss tonight. Our second ingredient on our social justice taco is ground beef. This represents racism. It was the meat of our course. And to start us off, it is a form of oppression where one race dominates over others, page 123 of our textbook. And my analogy is that it's ground beef, and racism grinds down people of color with the disadvantages and the institutionalized disadvantages that they encounter. Our next ingredient is actually the taco seasoning. This represents sexism. It adds flavor to our social justice taco. So we have women of color who, in addition to encountering the disadvantages of being a person of color, and also have sexism that also is another disadvantage. And according to our textbook, sexism today does not look like sexism from yesterday or the day of our mothers. It is adaptive over time, page 103, if you need to know the reference. Our next ingredient is lettuce. It represents the economics of oppression, and that's kind of our intersectionality, and you can also talk about classism. So classism is the oppression of poorer and working people by those who control the necessary resources, page 157. So some argue that in Canada and the United States that classism doesn't exist, that people who work hard can do well no matter what. And we can obviously see it wasn't the case in our class this fall. We have peoples of color and women who are disadvantaged, and they earn less than those who do have that privilege. So that is our lettuce for our taco. And our last ingredient is our sour cream. And I just want to say that the sour cream represents diversity. More importantly, it reminds me that a lack of diversity, our lives would look a lot like this dollop of sour cream. White and bland, and probably wouldn't taste as good as if we didn't have like the seasonings and other cultures to experience and things like that. So I really hope you enjoy my taco, and you have a wonderful night.